Hello world, it is Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, and looking out the window at Defiance. It's kind of an overcast day, and there's mixed precipitation. I haven't seen any actually falling, but that's what the weather's calling for. And I think only a high of 47 today, so kind of on the chilly side. And I think there's some more chance of precipitation later this afternoon. The devotion for today is entitled, God Comes Zooming In, written by Quinn Caldwell. Quinn bases the devotion upon excerpts from Ezekiel chapter 1. As I looked, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of them. They moved in any of the four directions. There was something like a throne, and seated above the likeness of a throne was something that seemed like a human form. And Quinn's devotion. Ezekiel's people are in exile, defeated, defiled, and deported to a far land. The Jerusalem temple, God's home on earth, is destroyed. Everything has collapsed. Everything is just about as terrible as it gets. And here comes Ezekiel yelling to everybody that he's just seen God. Not in the temple, on a throne, on a platform, on wings, on angels, on wheels, peeling out through the middle of a storm. The people had gotten used to thinking of God as sedentary, sitting around in the deepest part of the temple all day. Some had begun wondering what would happen to a stay-at-home God now that the home was destroyed. And here comes God zooming through the foreign land on, what? Wheelchair? Quad bike? Car? God is as mobile gets. Mobile all the way to Babylon. Mobile with the coolest mobility aid there ever was. A revelation. Hope. And I looked and I saw something like a window, and through it I saw God surrounded by a great multitude in rectangles. And round about God's head was a glory of light, because they always insist on sitting right in front of a window, and it messes with the camera. And God said, "Oh my gosh, O mortal, is that your cat? Hold her up so we can see." And verily, God came zooming in again. And the prayer from Quinn. Every time it falls apart, you prove that you're committed to showing up just where we need you. Thank you. Amen. I always appreciate Quinn's devotions. I've got a chance to see him speak live at one of the UCC General Synods, and he's as wonderful in person as he is in writing. For me, this devotion brought up a couple of different thoughts. One was, I think the living presence of God is in each other when we look for the presence of God. God's available to us wherever we are, whether we're alone, whether we're in a group, in a crowd, in the city, out in the country. God is around if we but look for God. God isn't in a specific place. In the church, for example, God is everywhere. I also loved his allusion to a Zoom meeting, and I think that was something I thought about in the midst of the deepest part of the COVID pandemic, when we were all isolating and working from home. Everything was on Zoom, and sometimes we found the presence of God in that Zoom meeting, because God is everywhere. That's what makes me think, kind of an aside, I'm so glad in a way that came out of the pandemic, the ability for us to have meetings on Zoom, especially since so many of the meetings we have for our association and our conference in the past would have taken an hour, hour and a half, 2 hour, 2.5 hours, 3 hour drive one way to get to a meeting. And people realized how much more they could accomplish. Maybe that's not the right word, but how much more time they would have when they're not in a car driving to a meeting. It's easy to sit at your computer and gather together, and I think can be just as productive, sometimes even more productive, because when somebody asks a question, you can look it up while you're sitting there on another screen and find the information immediately rather than having to wait till you get home and turn on your computer and so on. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the devotion. Maybe you had something different, but if you ever want to subscribe, you can go to ucc.org, and under What We Believe, there's a drop-down menu. You can click on Daily Devotions and sign up to have the written devotion sent to you. And it's every single day. It's 7 days a week. Written by a variety of different UCC ministers and pastors. They're quite fun. Well, I hope you have a good day, and I hope to talk to you again tomorrow.